The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order! The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Dylan J. Schlender presiding. We all rise for the Honorable Judge Schlender.
Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we are hearing the case of the People versus the Corps. The Corps is a 2003 disaster movie about a team of scientists who must prevent global catastrophe by drilling to the center of the Earth in order to jumpstart its core, which has stopped spinning. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Isaac Arthur, you are appearing on behalf of the prosecution. You may begin your opening statement.
The Corps is a 2003 sci-fi disaster film that should never have been made. It fails both as a disaster film and as a science fiction film. It's badly acted, it's badly structured. Even by the standards of disaster films, it doesn't make much sense, and the science fiction in it is so bad in terms of science that it doesn't even rise to the level of cheap BBC 1970s Doctor Who.
All right, thank you, Mr. Arthur. Appearing on behalf of the defense is Mr. Ryan Liquid Hot Magma Rodriguez. Please present your opening statement.
That's the worst fucking nickname.
That's the best nickname.
I don't want to speak hyperbolically, but John Emil's 2003 film, The Corps, is a masterpiece. One of the greatest films of all time. If it weren't for a voting irregularity, it would have swept the Academy Awards that year. Never mind that it wasn't actually nominated. But I have it on high authority that Hilary Swank's win for $1 Million Baby was in fact a win for The Corps. Strangely, it's also what Clint Eastwood won for, although his contributions ultimately went uncredited. The Corps, in addition to being a masterpiece, is the most influential science fiction film of the 2000s, as it has been ripped off by ultra-popular auteurs ever since. James Cameron stole the rare fake metal unobtainium for his supposedly original film Avatar, and Christopher Nolan stole the jumpsuit designs for his criminally overrated film Interstellar. So let's get to the bottom of this film that is far from boring, a multi-layered gem that totally rocks. After all, how is it possible to hate a movie with intrigue, high adventure, exploding coliseums, birdemics, and Richard Jenkins with a mustache? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Magma. Prosecution, you may proceed with your first exhibit.
Mr. Magma.
The Corps is a 2003 science fiction disaster film that bombed so badly at the box office it was a bigger bomb than the one they used to set off the core in the movie.
Objection, the box office is not on trial here.
Overruled. Please continue.
The Corps isn't even the best movie from that decade about them joining the Corps to save the planet. We actually have one from just a few years earlier called Deep Core, starring Star Trek veterans Terry Feller, Jadzia Dax, and Will Wheaton as Wesley Crusher. That's about the same basic plot. And it's actually not that much worse, even though it had much lower budget in terms of special effects. The film just doesn't have the CGI that you expect from a 2003 film. It comes off very badly in terms of the CGI. The whole thing looks like it's shot in orange juice. It is a Michael Bay with a low-budget film of disasters blowing up monuments. We see that the Colosseum gets struck by lightning. It's about the only building in Rome that's actually made out of metal. No, sorry, not made out of metal, and it gets struck by lightning. We see the Golden Gate Bridge get vaporized by microwaves from space, which is, well, there are microwaves in space all over the place, but they're very weak. I don't know why they'd be lensing across the thing, blowing up the entirety of San Francisco. We see across the board, almost everywhere, the science is bad. They get the geophysics wrong, they get the basic physics wrong, they get the geology wrong, they get thermodynamics wrong, they get electricity and magnetism wrong. Across the board, they even get zoology wrong. So, as a science fiction film, it fails on the science really badly, and when you get to the fiction, it's overacting, it's back and forth between trying to make cheap jokes and trying to have deep, tragic moments. As a film, it just doesn't work. As a disaster film, it doesn't work. As a character piece, it doesn't work. As a science fiction film, the science is so bad.
Now, Mr. Arthur, could you elaborate on maybe one or two pieces of the science that really stick out, especially to a man of your pedigree?
Well, it's hard to actually pin anything down just because there's so much mistakes in it. You have to actually have something there in terms of decent science to actually start saying where they messed up. Right from the get-go, we have an apparent absence of magnetics around the planet from the core stopping that somehow nobody noticed, and instead of this showing itself across the entire planet as massive aurora borealises and huge radio wave spikes, you instead have people falling over dead from their pacemakers not working. Now, pacemakers are not terribly vulnerable to electromagnetic pulses, neither are pigeons, but for some reason that's our first experience with it. And, this is a film where it's doing the classic disaster film build-up where you've got, disaster has been shown to us, the team is assembled, and the team goes and solves the problem, and the main actor and the love interest get together at the end. A lot of whatever members of the film are not sacrificed as red shorts, which in this case is none except for their hacker. And they have the classic 90s hacker, and he is so geeky to make up for the fact that the rest of the heroes are scientists. He has to be so much geekier to pull off the geek trope that he just comes off as beyond cliche. And his job is to hack the internet and prevent people from finding out about news reports about how things are going bad with disasters and electromagnetic fields, which includes him somehow being able to prevent people from seeing Rome getting blasted by lightning that has an absolute, hatred and vendetta against the Colosseum, and the Golden Gate Bridge nearly getting vaporized. These are apparently things you can hack on the internet so nobody finds out about them in the news.
That's a fair point. Mr. Rodriguez, did you want to rebut anything about the Golden Gate Bridge being vaporized or the Colosseum or the character tropes?
Yes, I've seen it happen several times. Let's see. Yes, first of all, I don't want to humble brag, but I reached out to several credible scientists, and they all told me that the science at the core of the core is rock solid.
You're on thin crust here.
I'd like to hear one of the names of these scientists, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know them. They live in Canada.
You emailed the diehard doctor, didn't you? He wants us to leave him alone.
Yes, Die Hardington III. Yes.
All right.
Well, I do want to speak to this idea of movies having to be in any way scientifically accurate. Never let good science get in the way of cinema. For instance, Martin Scorsese was able to get past the scientific fact that Jesus was just a dude and make a classic in The Last Temptation of Christ. I suppose the defense would argue that Méliès was wrong to depict the moon with a face in A Trip to the Moon because it's not realistic, or that you can't slingshot around the sun in a spaceship to travel back to the 1980s. I don't care. It's a movie. Movies are supposed to speak to the human condition, to get to what matters in life, and that is me eating popcorn and enjoying myself. Thank you.
So, Mr. Arthur, continuing on with the movie's shortcomings as you see them, moving maybe towards the end when they're actually going into the core. How does that actually work? The science behind the core stopping? Can they actually restart it with nukes?
No. Now, people suggest this sometimes how we might build a magnetosphere around Mars is by, drilling into the core of Mars and nuking it. And we have this much easier way to do that, which is called an electromagnetic field you can produce with a wire. But if you want to drill into the core of this planet, they decide this project they just coincidentally have on the wraps. They're working on it. And the person who's working on it is the ex-partner, the jaded ex-partner of one of the other scientists in there, Carl Sagan, or his cheap knockoff, who smokes and is much more arrogant, who apparently the two of them had a long relationship, decades past, and the man just happened to be working on a way to drill to the planet's core, which he does by using massive laser arrays powered by a material he calls unobtainium, which is either just sad laziness on the writer and director's part, or is just one more example of them hanging a lantern on the bad signs. And, I mean, it sometimes seems like the movie is mocking itself, except that the rest of the time, it doesn't seem like it is. It's like Battlefield Earth. You think it's a joke at itself, but then it turns out it wasn't all along. So, they're going to drill into the center of the planet using lasers, it's really big lasers, and ultrasonics simultaneously. I don't know how this works, but the metal they're going to increase the ship in requires a big, powerful thing that looks like a sandworm from Dune, and will convert all the heat into energy for them to run the laser with, and it's a giant, powerful structure, and yet they somehow can make really thin spacesuits that do the same thing they're going to bring along with them, which they have for, I have no idea why, because they're planning to plunge into magma. But along the way, they've not calibrated their ship to run into big empty spaces. They weren't expecting that. And it turns out in the mantle of the Earth, there are giant geodes the size of cities. They crash into one of these, and their ship gets stuck, and fortunately, they can't cut their way through it, so they have to go out manually, and they rely on the spacesuits. So they go inside there, and they start cutting their way free of this, and this is our first chance for heroic sacrifice. Our main hero, Harvey Dent, gets out of the ship, and he tells his oxygen be used to run the cutting torch, and then they start having to hurry up because there's magma dripping from the ceiling, and it's melting the crystals. Now, we already know the ship is completely safe against magma, and we now see the magma is melting the crystals that got them stuck. So instead of getting back in the ship and waiting patiently for the magma to melt them free, they stick around, heroically cutting the way free while Harvey Dent is losing his oxygen, and then the main commander of the thing, who had been the space shuttle pilot, whose main other role here was to be the older mentor figure to Harvey Dent's girlfriend, who was the co-pilot, he is killed by a random chunk of debris that just kills him. For no reason. It just kills him. So he is sacrificed one.
It was awesome.
Yeah. He is sacrificed one, and then back in the ship where the character of Harvey Dent is awakened to find out, sadly, that his girlfriend's boss has been killed, and she's now their only pilot. We then get to our next chance for self-sacrifice when Harvey Dent's best friend, European scientist, Eastern European scientist, I suppose I should add on there, he is crushed to death in the ship, and he could have been saved if they had just risked the mission to do it. And there was tragedy, and there was tension with Harvey Dent and Harvey Dent's girlfriend, and there was concern, obviously, that she'll be burnt alive. And so he dies. He's horribly crushed to death. Then we have
a tinfoil ball.
Yeah. Then it's the turn of the black scientist whose job it was to create the ship in the first place. He goes outside to fix the ship, which is not designed to jettison manually. And the problem is they found the core was denser or less dense than they thought, so their plan to nuke it wasn't going to work. So they're going to readjust the ship to break off its compartments one by one and release their nukes one by one, but the ship has not been designed to do that, so he has to heroically sacrifice himself to go outside and realign the ship so that it will be able to jettison pods manually each time with a bomb. The weapons control system was in the back bomb compartment that has already been jettisoned. And so they begin doing that, and he dies, and then they begin having shockwaves. They just realize that the bomb's time was not set to go out quite right, and Snobby Scientist and Harvey Dent Scientist, who are the last two main scientists, are trying to fix it when a shockwave hits them, and the bomb falls on Harvey Dent, and then falls on Snobby Scientist, who heroically sacrificed himself at the end to tell him to run off and detonate the bomb separately. And the solution to finding out that their last bomb's not going to be quite big enough is to say, take the nuclear reactor that the ship runs on out and add it to the last bomb so it'll blow up bigger, the plutonium from it. To make a nuclear bomb bigger by just adding plutonium you've poured out of your reactor to it is kind of like saying you're going to make a computer run faster by pouring molten silicon over top of it. So,
That doesn't work?
No. Sadly, it doesn't work out in this case, but Harvey Dent and his girlfriend manage to survive the explosion, which is sufficient. It restarts the core, the planet begins to heal itself, and they are spewed up out from the bottom of the things up to Hawaii, a perfect vacation set for a new romantic young couple. They have a perfect place to go, and they are saved by whales. And,
Like Star Trek 4.
and by geeky scientist who has exposed the evil regime that had built the weapon that caused this problem in the first place, and tells everyone about it, along with all the unsung heroes who have died in this thing, and then and that is it. The movie is over.
They're literally called unsung heroes.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh my goodness. All right.
Now, can I ask a question?
Please proceed, Mr. Rodriguez.
So the prosecution said that movies will tell the audience when the science isn't real? Huh? When?
Sometimes when a movie is taking a deliberate break with science because it's necessary to plot, they'll kind of hang a lantern on it that says, this isn't really how science works, but it turns out that it does for this movie. You might think the science works this way, but it turns out. There's the goal there being that you need to break with science for the purpose of the plot, but you don't actually want people to come away with bad science in their heads. So the core does not do that, and it does it so many times that it's one of those few cases where you come into a movie and you can actually leave dumber.
So there is no such thing as unobtainium.
There is no such thing as unobtainium. This is literally a material that was made up by engineers and science fiction writers to describe a material that has impossible qualities.
So it's everything to everyone.
It's whatever the plot needs it to be. It's that material.
They should put a subtitle there. This is not science. Disclaimer.
Don't try this at home. Is there any science it does get right? I'm curious now.
Earth is a planet, right?
Objection, it's called science fiction. Fiction?
Take it easy, Mr. Magma. All right. Thank you, Mr. Arthur. All right, Mr. Ryan Rodriguez, you can please present your exhibits in your case.
All right, my time to speak. My time! I would like to point out that the core has an amazing cast. Practically the Ocean's 11 of drilling into the Earth movies. Bruce Greenwood as the nicest astronaut in history. Aaron Eckhart as the rumpled, sexy science expert. Delroy Lindo as the guy with those cool eyeglasses. The aforementioned Hilary Swank as the woman I can't believe isn't the actual lead. National treasure Alfre Woodard as herself. Stanley Tucci, the Tooch, as Mr. Turtleneck. Checky Cario as that guy from La Femme Nikita. It is an unimpeachable ensemble that Irwin Allen would be proud to have assembled had he not been rotting in the ground for 12 years.
Oh, how much pop did someone give Ryan today? Is that his whole point?
Would you like to?
Would you care to rebut?
Mr. Arthur, would you care to rebut any of the points he made about the actors and the acting, the casting, whether it was the Ocean's 11 of Drilling to the Earth movie?
The Tooch.
I don't believe I said anything about the acting. I just pointed out who's in the movie. Thank you.
Well, they weren't even the best cast that we had seen from a science fiction movie that decade about drilling to the core of the planet. We had a better one from the veteran cast of Star Trek, where we had Jadzia Dask and Wesley Crusher in it. In the movie Deep Core, right?
I've never heard of it and refuse to believe it exists.
You're on thin ice, Mr. Rodriguez.
Harvey Dent, he brings some sci-fi credentials in from the DC Comics universe, but that's about it. We got some very good casts there, but they overact. 1 minute they're telling a joke. The whole movie seems set up in the classic disaster thing of, let's find an excuse to blow up a monument with a disaster. Let's deliver a few one-liners about how we should have, do you take a check to build this $50 billion device or a credit card? Just overreacting, and the whole thing is set up to show off the disaster, show off the special effects, which again just do not hold up to time, and to run through the heroic sacrifices until we have the love interest at the end, all alone by themselves in Hawaii.
All right, Mr. Rodriguez, please continue.
I believe that if Michael Bay, the devil himself, had made the core, it would be considered a crowd pleaser, and all the reviews would instruct us to turn off our brains and enjoy the ride. I won't stand for this double standard. In fact, Michael Bay made a much dumber version of the core, Armageddon, and I petition the court that we declare a mistrial and litigate Armageddon instead.
We'll take that under advisement, but we won't rule on that at the moment. We're gonna focus on the core.
I rest my case.
Well, did you have any? Did you want to maybe defend Michael Bay's honor, Mr. Arthur?
If you're smart, you know you won't.
Does Michael Bay have on him?
You don't have to.
This film does not measure up to Michael Bay's standards, and if it doesn't even measure up to Michael Bay's standards for disaster films, you know it wasn't a good film. It only destroyed 2 national monuments.
Oh, true.
That is
I disagree. I saw it in 8K, and it was twice as impressive.
okay. So it kind of sounds like everyone's rested.
No, I haven't.
What?
Sorry, I just felt like yelling.
Oh, wait. Order in the court.
It worked.
Judge, I'm confused.
I'm also confused.
I'll be robbing your dreams in no time. Oh, yes.
All right.
This is going to be sweet.
Okay, so with that, let us move on to our closing arguments. Mr. Arthur, you may begin.
The Core is a science fiction disaster film whose goal was to try to take us through a fun romp of why the world is ending and how we're going to save it, and this team that's going to save it from the end of the world, and it just fails on all of these points. It fails as a disaster film, it fails as a tragedy film, it fails as a science fiction film, and it fails as a comedy film. It just makes none of these standards when it's trying to do these. They do not fuse together well, and the film just comes off as trying to do too many things and none of them well enough.
All right. And Mr. Rodriguez, you may present your closing argument.
The core. The core. What more is there to be said? 100 years from now, when greenhouse gases and mutually assured nuclear destruction have rendered the planet Earth uninhabitable, and the surviving humans are loaded onto SpaceX rockets to live out the rest of their lives on supervillain Elon Musk's moon mansion guest house in the Sea of Tranquility, there will only be room for one DVD to represent 2 centuries of filmmaking craft, and it's clear what that DVD will be. Cannibal the Musical. The commentary is hilarious, but some pure soul aboard the rocket will sneak on a copy of the most important film released in the 21st century, John Emil's The Core, and it will inspire humanity to rebel against their oppressor and drill to the moon's core to escape his tyrannical rule, where they will be able to nourish themselves by eating the satellite's mantle, as it is made of cheese. That's right, the core is the key to our future, the pinnacle of cinema that saves us all. And if you vote guilty, you stand resolutely against the future. May the world never forget what transpires here in the next 10 to 12 minutes. Make the right choice. That choice is innocent. Case closed.
We really got to stop making Ryan watch movies like this.
I know, something snapped.
It brings out the worst in him.
It won't snap back either. Thank you both. Members of the jury, Mr. Robb Maynard, Mr. Big Ben Haslar, and Mr. Lil Dilly Schlender, you have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict. Ben, are you there?
Arguments.
Yeah.
You didn't make a bailiff joke.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sometimes I forget. What's a good bailiff joke?
Oh, it's over.
Wait, we're not supposed to write it for you. You're supposed to write them yourself.
I think this is the bailiff joke.
So very interesting case. There was a lot of science discussed and a lot of lack of science. Ben, what did you think?
Well, this is one of the shortest cases we've had in this trial, and I think that speaks to it. It either means it's very good or very bad because there's just so little to say about it. And not to spoil which way I'm going about it, but
Not guilty.
man,
obviously.
the
Get
lightning.
out of here, Mr. Rodriguez.
No lawyers in the deliberation room,
I
Mr.
know.
Rodriguez.
I'm
Should have
always
put the
here.
bathroom in this room. It was our fault, really. The lightning just aiming for the Coliseum. Like, it's not even aiming for anything else. It just boom right for this one national monument because we got to have this Independence Day destruction porn going on. That's insulting, like, from the get-go. And then it goes on to where it's like, I'm a math and science guy, so I'm not too into earth science, but even I'm thinking, like, this can't work. I think even my parents would think, like, this isn't how science works. I don't think the ship is just one giant solar panel. That just doesn't make sense to me. The CGI, the Lord of the Rings came out this same year, and the CGI in this is just embarrassing. I mean, it's like PlayStation 2 graphics at best. I can't even really think of that much that's good in it, because it does have a good cast, but they're not good in it. And
I don't know. I think it does have a good cast, and I don't think any of them really puts up a bad showing themselves. They just got a bad
no,
script.
it's just an average one. It's like
Even the Tooch?
Oh, I like the Tooch.
No, he was good. Okay, I will agree. The Tooch was good. But
And
Hillary
I thought-
Swank is like the girl, and Aaron Eckhart is like sexy Jim Halpert or something. I don't know. It's just dumb.
I don't know. The cast to me was the one redeeming thing to me about it, because the effects are pretty bad. They are very
By that day's standards, I think.
And I don't know. I wish they had done more practical effects and stuff like that. I always say that, but
Well, I don't know how you do that when you're drilling to the
Orange
to
juice.
The orange juice
Yeah.
for the
a lot of
for
orange
the magma.
juice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, he's scale drillers.
But yeah, I thought the acting was the redeemable thing about this, because I mean, the science is absurd, but I kind of have a good time when they're all on the ship and they're all going towards their destination.
They just do those huge time jumps, though. It's like 12 hours later, and like they all look fine. They're not exhausted or
They're not
anything.
sweaty or anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think they're eating?
They are probably just eating like protein bars or like astronaut paste.
Tang.
Would be my guess. Yeah. It's
Oh, we forgot to bring food. It's time to start drinking our own urine.
Jeez, no, I don't think it's got that bad. Though, which one of the pods they ejected had the bathroom in it? This seems
One of
short-sighted. It had to be.
Yeah, that was a
Why did we
weird
put it in
thing.
in the back one.
Yeah, where they could eject all the pods, and I don't know why they put their weapon system in the very last pod if they knew that they could likely eject them. But
Well, that's what they said too, is that if one compartment's integrity went, the whole ship could go. So if the middle pod went, they would have to eject the middle pod and all the other pods next to it. So, so it seems like you would want the most critical systems as close to the front as you could, because obviously if the front got damaged, then you're just SOL anyway.
Yeah.
So you're right.
It'd be like a crane where you like decouple it and then it like sort of like scooches in.
And you'd think that the most danger would be in the front.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like when they go into the negative space and it turns out to be a giant geode.
I didn't teach you how to fly. And that was weird. Why can they drill through everything, but that crystal can stay in front and somehow stop their drill?
But the magma melts it, like Isaac
drill
said.
through it? Absolutely. That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, it's like, okay, the magma's falling. Let's just get back in the ship and wait.
So how are you leaning, Schlenzo?
Oh, well, so I got to say, I did enjoy the case. I liked hearing what each side had to say.
I didn't enjoy Ryan's case. I thought he was just screaming.
Ryan, clearly, this movie has driven him to the brink. Yeah. The brink of what? I don't know, but we've got to pull him back.
We've shaken him to the core.
That's the clip. I know we don't do jury clips, but that's the one. It's like, because you know what it is? This is that movie. This is why the work we do here is so important. This is one of those movies that it's so bad, it's entertaining. This is a hacker. We got to punch the hacker card on this one. I'm leaning guilty.
Okay, well, you had a weird intro to that guilty vote.
It's a hacker. Hackers are guilty.
No, hackers are good for being bad.
No, hackers are
so
entertaining.
You're saying hackers are bad?
Yes, that was the definition.
I don't know if any movie with Stanley Tucci in it is really a hacker. This thing was too high budget to be a hacker. It's just a failure, unfortunately. Ben, how are you feeling?
What was Aaron Eckhart doing like when he like wants to just flame roast a piece of fruit for no real reason? Like he couldn't just tell people that like without an ozone layer the earth would get cooked or something like that.
The gravity of the situation had to be revealed.
I had to like cut open a piece of fruit to like demonstrate that pit, this has a pit. It's like the core, because they couldn't imagine that with his own words. I hate that sort of thing. Oh, I also hate where they're like, here's the information you're primed for, because nerds like prime numbers, huh? Nerds, right? Primes, yeah. It's guilty. There's nothing to say about it. It's just dumb.
Well, no, it doesn't really matter what I say, but I'm going to go.
I could swerve.
I'm going to go against the grain here, and I'm going to say guilty. Because although I like the cast, and I do think this movie is entertaining, it was bad. The script's bad. The science is bad. I mean, if the core stops spinning, I mean, we're all dead.
We're dead. Yeah.
At least earthquakes would explode and stuff, right? Well, I thought, the thing is, if the core stops spinning, then doesn't the whole Earth stop spinning and everyone floats off into space?
I mean, you would think something to that effect.
I don't know. We'll have to check with Isaac.
We'll check with Isaac
when we come back to the core. That's what I would think. But I'm going to go guilty, although I love the Tooch.
The Tooch.
The Tooch.
I'm going to save it.
So with that, let's get back there and deliver the verdict to that
98% guilty.
somewhat handsome judge.
I'll take it. Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of the people versus the core, we find the accused guilty of being a bad movie.
The verdict is so rendered. I hereby sentence the core to be remade with ultra-gritty realism and a more convincing love story. Court is adjourned.
This is Ben Guy, the science nigh, outside of the Reels of Justice courtroom. We have just heard that The Core is indeed a guilty movie. Mr. Isaac Arthur, would you care to share your thoughts on this verdict?
Well, there's nothing sweeter than victory.
Enjoy it.
This movie is atrocious. It is a horrible example of science fiction and disaster films, and it deserves to be found guilty.
I couldn't agree more. And here comes Mr. Ryan Rodriguez. Would you care to share your thoughts on this stunning loss today?
You know, when the Chuds and the Morlocks rise up and kill us all, you're all gonna feel pretty foolish. Thank you.
I'll feel real bad about myself on that day. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. All right, and that's it from the courthouse steps. Let's return to the studio for post-trial analysis.
All right. Hell of a
fantastic.
trial. Hell of a trial.
No, I had a good time. I like that. And Ryan loses again. I love when Ryan loses.
Oh, boo. Be nice.
That's sad.
I like to think of it as Isaac winning.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And great job, Isaac. I hope you had a good time, watching this movie.
So, Isaac, what would happen if the core of the planet stopped? You're saying that the planet would fall in on itself?
We'd all die. Pretty quickly, too.
But how? Let's find out.
Well, it depends on what was actually causing it to stop. If it's just being slowed down so it moves at the same speed as the rest of the planet, because the whole planet's turning, and a lot of planets don't have molten cores that spin at a different speed than we do. If that happens, and it happens slowly enough, then the big effect is you lose your magnetic sphere, and you lose your atmosphere, and then you lose your oceans over many millions, if not billions of years. If you just suddenly reached out and stopped it, then it just depends on what kind of magic you use to stop it. You either have a freeze death as long as all the energy gets sucked out of the system, or boyhood alive in a flash moment of explosion as all that energy is released to the rest of the planet. The amount of energy it takes to spin a planet around, or its core, is very parallel to what it takes to hold it together in the first place.
Could I be sent flying into space?
Do you think I might just go if it stopped, could I just go flying off the edge?
Your atomized remains might, yeah.
No, my atomized remains
everywhere.
Oh, it's horrible.
Oh my god!
Oh, now I'm going to start tying myself down to the planet just in case.
Just in case.
Strap yourself to your bed like every night and oh wait, the bed can float.
Lead shoes.
You see, folks, he doesn't know. I say we revise that verdict.
Get off of it, Ryan. You can drop your character now. You hated this movie.
I don't know what you're talking about. I loved it.
He really has snapped. He's
He's
gone mad. So, Isaac, what's been keeping you busy lately? What fills up the days?
Oh, well, I've been making episodes. We have a new one come out every Thursday. Our most recent one was on orbital bombardment, looking at how you'd actually drill a hole into the planet. And we have also done episodes previously on accessing Earth's core and trying to do it a little more realistically, although it can seem a bit otherwise, since I think our advice there was to try using a machine gun that fired nukes. So,
Nice. Nukes are the answer.
Nukes are always the answer.
Didn't you have an episode where somebody wanted you to see if you could do a rescue with nukes?
Oh, yeah, I got a challenge once for a high-tech search and rescue episode. A friend challenged me to see if I could find a way to use nuclear bombs to actually engage in search and rescue. I came up with 4 of them, so... using nukes to save the world. So if brute force isn't working, you're not using enough of it.
Super cool, super cool.
Yeah.
And
the videos are great, and I love listening to them as a podcast too when we're driving. We were listening to the one about like why would aliens attack, and you brought up the theory of like maybe one of them would really like our art or something, and that captured my daughter's imagination. So she's convinced that if aliens invade, it's because they want to steal our statues.
It's not the art you think it is.
Yeah,
I want that Eiffel Tower.
So we always ask for a suggestion from our guests for a movie. What is a recommendation of a movie that you think people should check out?
Oh, if we're going science fiction disaster films, Danny Boyle's 2007 film Sunshine.
Cool. What did you think was so great about it?
Well, it does take its own liberties with science in terms of what caused the problem of the sun cooling down and how they actually go about solving it, but they do the science so much better. There's so much more actual tension that feels really real and plausible. It's more, I wouldn't say cerebral because that's a death knell for an action film, but it's a much more psychological thriller. And other than maybe the last 20 or 30 minutes of it, when it feels like the producers kind of felt the need to throw in a little bit more action, it's just a strong, thoughtful film.
and that's another one with nukes are the answer, right? They're gonna nuke the sun to
get
it going.
but the watch great old nukes, yeah. In the core, they only use like 1,000 megatons. In that one, they got a whole ship made out of nuke.
Get it together.
Yeah, they had to add more plutonium to the ship as it's going to the sun.
So the core's problem is just the little payload they had. You're saying if they had enough nukes.
If you use enough nukes, yeah. As I say, if brute force isn't working, you're not using enough of it.
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I liked that one, except I know that why it goes horror at the end, but
that's a good one. Yeah.
It's got that guy. Who's that guy?
Oh, I don't.
Ryan, who's the guy in that thing?
Cillian Murphy.
That's the guy.
See, Ryan watches movies. That's why we keep him around.
Yeah, that one. I always like that.
That one's with Deep Space Nine stars, apparently.
Sometimes it's cool. It's like horrendously bright. Like you almost have to wear sunglasses when you watch it. And I don't know. That guy could have gone insane and started chasing everyone. Isaac may not have survived his burns.
Space madness is a thing.
Yeah, Ren and Stimpy.
And I believe you told me Chris Evans was in it.
Yeah, it's surprising. I was trying to think about who else is like a classic science fiction film. I think that was one of his first big roles was in that film. When did Thor come out? That had to have been after Sunshine, so he wasn't nearly as cut in that one film, that's for sure. That is a big crossover in science fiction disaster films and comic book films, I guess. So we had Harvey Dent, Ewan Alcott in this film, and in Sunshine we have Chris Evans. So, I'm sorry, he played Captain America, not Thor.
Yeah, he played Captain America.
I'm going to lose a geek point for that. Make sure you edit that out there. We can't have him say that.
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth is Thor. Right? Yeah,
I have the Chris right.
And Chris Pine is the new Captain Kirk. There's too many Chris's.
Oh, he was in this film too. That's right. Yeah, Captain Pike dies again. He was the pilot. I missed so many chances to say Captain Pike. Yeah. Wow, we've got to make sure we make a joke about Captain Pike in the film with you there.
What I appreciate about Sunshine is in the few spots where they do break science, there's a small disclaimer that flashes on the bottom of the screen. It says, "This is not science.
Don't try this at home."
Yeah, this is not true. We made this part up.
This will end all life as we know it.
Yeah. Boy and His Dog from 1779. I think that was Don Johnson in that film. So that's a very good film.
Oh, that is a good one. I believe you're the second one who has recommended A Boy and His Dog.
Yeah, that's come up before.
Frank Dietz has done it too. So Don Johnson was the dog?
No, Don Johnson is the man in A Boy and His Dog.
There's a man?
A boy,
Wait, who's
if you
the boy?
will. God.
Oh, okay.
Boys grew up, Rob.
This is making a lot more sense now.
Yeah, A Man and His Dog wouldn't be anywhere near a very good title at all.
And another one where nukes are like appropriate.
The nukes it's a post-apocalypse movie there, but it's a great it's a great time to show man and his best friend and just how they survive together in a world without hope.
That'd be like a fun watch list, like movies where nukes are appropriately used.
There you go. That's the next YouTube video for
Was
you.
The Planet of the Apes sequel? Was it Return to the Planet of the Apes? You worship an unexploded nuclear device.
Was that's the Beneath?
That's Beneath, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, the sequel. That's true. They
Well, see, I would lasso one of the nukes and ride it out of there. I saw a whole movie about it.
No, you stuff yourself in a refrigerator and like ride out the explosion.
Isaac, will you tell this guy that I can totally survive a nuclear blast by hiding inside a refrigerator?
lead line.
At least the AMP blast, yes, yeah. As the fallout and the mutant cannibals afterwards, that's another story.
The Chuds?
The Chuds are always coming for us.
Eat it, Maynard.
You can't have an
Chuds
apocalypse without cannibals. That's just not how it's done. So, the apocalypse is here. Get your mohawk on, get your dune buggy ready, and head on out to fight the cannibals. So, or
Nice.
Ryan, since you were defense, you get to recommend a movie for us. So what have you got for us?
My recommendation is a movie that is as arguably as controversial as The Core, Emerald Fennell's Promising Young Woman. I'm a big fan of Ms. Fennell in general. She ran my favorite season of Killing Eve. But this is a scathing, angry film that really deserves to be part of the larger cultural conversation. The last half hour in particular is almost unbearably intense. And I will say that although I love this movie, watching it right before I went to sleep was a terrible fucking decision. That is Promising Young Woman for rent on VOD platforms and iTunes and Amazon Prime.
Why is it so scathingly controversial, Ryan?
Oh, I don't know. Jeez, when you take on the entire male gender, jeez, people get a little touchy about, the fact that
Gender
men
politics.
suck.
Got it. Oh, okay.
They must mean other men, not us.
No,
Yeah, well,
all
not
men.
me.
We're all terrible.
Yes, not me though.
Not Rob. Rob's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Come on.
Dylan, what is your recommendation?
I'm glad you asked. So, in honor of Isaac being here and his latest episode as of this recording, Multi-Species Civilizations and Co-Alien Habitats, I'm going to recommend my favorite alien cohabitation movie, Enemy Mine.
Oh.
What? Species? No, Enemy Mine. The 1985 sci-fi feature that has a lot of heart. It stars Dennis Quaid as the human and Lou Gossett Jr. as the alien. The two are stranded on a planet together and must learn to work together or face certain doom.
Has a lot of heart.
Oh, it does have a lot of heart, yeah.
Got babies, too.
It's got a baby.
My reaction to that is it was a great science fiction film, and I was just surprised it was from the same director that brought us The Never-Ending Story and Das Boot.
Who's that?
Wolfgang Peterson.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite television chefs.
Oh, no.
Oh.
That's Gordon Ramsay. But you also meant Wolfgang Puck.
I love that guy. Potatoes!
Everyone's favorite chef.
All right, well, so we got the spoiler warning. So Lou Gossett Jr.'s alien is, was it hermaphrodite, where like they switch sexes and everything, and he has a baby, but he dies, and Dennis Quaid raises the baby and he, like as his son, and then at the end, at the kids' like man rights ceremony on the alien planet, he's there standing with him reading the scriptures and
There's
things.
a men's rights ceremony?
What? No.
That sounds like the people who would hate Ryan's movie.
Oh, yeah, they wouldn't like that movie. Enemy Mine, very pro-patriarchy.
It kind of
That's the
sounds
quote.
like the first scene in Kong Skull Island.
Oh, it's exactly like that. That's why I was hoping Kong Skull Island was going to be. I'm like, this is going to be Enemy Mine with King Kong. That's going to be awesome. And then it wasn't.
Oh,
Enemy.
and if he would have raised King Kong from a baby?
Well, it'd be more like if he raised the Japanese guy as a baby. I just
That
realized
would
how...
be incredibly
Well,
insensitive.
I was going to say, that's pretty problematic, assuming the Japanese guy would be the alien. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's pretty dark. Well,
Dennis Quaid has more in common with John C. Reilly's. all I'm
yeah,
saying.
I'm going to change the subject
Good
now.
call.
Ben, what kind of recommendation do you have for us?
If you want to watch a good movie about people going into the Earth's surface, I would recommend The Descent. The first half sure as heck scares me away from ever wanting to go spelunking, even without the Smeagol orcs that might be lurking around in the latter half. The lighting is great. They use torches and glow sticks to create an eerie atmosphere, and the tension between all the characters is very believable in its dire situations. Check it out.
It's a great movie. Have you seen part 2?
I have not seen 2.
Highly recommended. It's very good.
Isaac, did you see The Descent?
I haven't seen it yet, but it looks like a bit of a descent into something. I don't know. Is that another one they have the monsters at the end of it? They're all kind of added in by the producers.
No. Like there's like the monsters are like in legit half of the film.
The descent into something is actually the tagline that's on the poster for The Descent.
Is it?
It sure is a descent into something.
something?
It kind of reminds me of Sunshine, though, in where like the first half of the movie is kind of practical in how it terrifies you because it's just about claustrophobia and darkness, and then the second half they're just like, and here's some fucking monsters. But yeah, no, the Descent definitely is really freaky. And isn't there an alternate ending, Ryan?
There is. There's like a UK and a US version.
Yeah, exactly. So no, the Descent is definitely sweet. I don't know how scientific it is.
Well, the first half is because it's just like people squeezing through like little tiny tunnels and stuff, very claustrophobic.
Yeah, no.
But Smeagol works. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, no, yeah. The Descent is definitely a sweet choice. So for my recommendation this week, I'm going to recommend another disaster movie, and this is 1973's Japan Sinks from Toho. And it's based on a novel by the same name. It obviously deals with the possibility of like the entire landmass of Japan sinking into the ocean and thus taking with it every single living inhabitant of the country. So unlike some other disaster movies I could name, this one does not deal with any plans to avert the catastrophe. Instead, the characters just have to coordinate a plan to try and save as many lives as possible. And considering the huge population of Japan, I think they said it was 110 million at the time, even evacuation and immigration of where those people will go after, that is really the large conflict of the movie, because Japan's screwed. It's sinking. It's toast. A lot of great special effects in there, obviously, courtesy of Toho. And this film was released, too, in the United States in 1975 by Roger Corman's New World Pictures as Tidal Wave. But it features all new footage with American actors and a drastically reduced runtime. I haven't seen that version of the film, the American version, so I can't speak for its quality.
It's Roger Corman, so...
Right, Roger Corman. So, just hint, you're probably going to do yourself a favor and see the Japanese version, Japan Sinks, for sure. No, so, pretty cool movie. I think the science in that one holds up fairly well. I mean...
Yeah, remember when Japan sank?
Yeah. Well, but they find the landmass like is drastically going into like the Japan Trench. That's like one of the opening scenes of the movie. So I mean, landmasses can sink. Back me up here, Isaac.
Over a long enough period of time, yes. But we're talking geological times, not cinematic times. Not even Peter Jackson cinematic times.
Well, I mean, I think the movie took place over like 2 years.
Well, that's got to be enough.
What's the fastest a country could sink?
There we go. Ben's asking the real question.
Well, remember, a lot of it's due to earthquakes. So, like, faults are opening up so that mass can slip in.
Yeah, given it like every possibility to sink, what is the fastest we can get this puppy underwater?
With sufficient use of nuclear bombs, anything can be made fast enough.
I think that's the answer.
Nukes are always the answer. So the question is always, what's the problem? So we want to bury this island as quick as we can.
Rob, you're not having good luck with asking Isaac to back you up on science today.
I know. Why doesn't anyone want to back up my silly made-up science?
I would also like Isaac to say something about Porky's 2. Might become running big, you never know.
Yeah, Isaac, back me up here. Porky's 2 is your favorite movie, right?
Oh, good God. I think I've actually seen that with my cousins when I was a little kid.
And it is
Well, that's
your life of
I
science.
don't know if you guys date back that long, but back when the days of classic cable television, they had USA's Up All Night.
All right,
They just
because
show
Neil
full movies
deGrasse
all the
Tyson
time.
was on the show to do Porky's 2.
Was he?
That's true. When Neil deGrasse Tyson was a guest on this podcast, he recommended Porky's 2.
They defended it.
But he kept singing the theme song, and that's why we can't air the episode.
The thing is, Ben, he defended it and he recommended it. It was
know.
really weird.
I know, we told him, like, no,
Best
a
movie
different
ever.
movie. He's like, I don't
Well,
care.
I still think Porky's 2. The
Sorry,
next
I got
day.
Porky's on the brain. I just got Porky's on the brain.
Well, Porky's 3, I assume one of them was The Revenge, so...
Porky's 3 was 3D, actually.
Porky's 3D. The Revenge.
And Porky's 4 was A New Hope.
Aw.
Then there's the Porky's prequels. We won't get into that.
And well, we just want to thank our guest, Isaac Arthur. You got me messed up, yo. Isaac Arthur, for joining us. Thank you, Isaac. We hope you come back sometime soon.
Well, I'd be glad to.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, awesome. And with that, we are all out of show. But we hope you will join us next time as the reels of justice keep turning.
Count it.
Science!
Bye.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.